my name is Ahto and I'm Administrative Director of the Chancellery of the Riigikogu. And today I will try to tell about the various aspects of digitalization of Estonia and also including the Parliament of the Estonian Riigikogu. Digitalization in Parliament is important, but we should also look at a bigger, wider picture. Electronic authentication, is it secure for everyone, or we continue sending the passwords and username through the unsecured channel, or impersonalized video chat links that can pick up unwanted persons and using deepfake technology, and they can be for everyone. One most popular password still is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In this year, I believe it will be more secure in next year and will be just started at 7. Even the Parliament produce electronic documents, bills, drafts. Is there a possibility to share them in the secure way between the different ministries, agencies, institutions, presidents, governments? Are those institutions also able to read these digital documents in digital way? Estonia is the only country in the world now where 99% of the government services are now accessible online. I suppose the question might be for everyone minds why the digitalization happened here. There are several factors that came together in the end. Some of them provide a factual context, others depends on the more intangible things such as culture and values. Estonia is a relatively big country with a relatively small population and has a small government budget of around 130 million euros when it regained independent in 1991. Quite frankly, it couldn't offer traditional bureaucratic structures because of lack of money and manpower. So at least equally important these fundamental challenges, but the fact Tallinn had been the home of the Soviet Union's cybernetics institute since the 1960s. So some of the required IT talent was already in place. Another factor may very well have been Estonian culture. You see, also Estonians are not the most talkative people on the earth. So for the digitalization, I would save not just time and money, but also the need to interact with the people at the government offices. All this came together in 1994 when the Parliament signed the first draft policy of digitalization. So as you can see, these developments were based on bare necessity as much as forward-thinking mindset. Of course, there were also many challenges. When Estonia started building its information society about 2.5 decades ago, there was no digital data being collected about its citizens. The general population did not have any internet connection, let alone devices with which to use it. It took a great courage to invest in IT solutions that take the information technology route. All services, e-services should be simple and user-friendly. This is because of what we are talking about, a citizen-centric approach. Of course, one always has to take into account what specialists and other interest groups are thinking. Doctors should be consulted for the implementation of the HEAL portal. There are always legal concerns and the requirements for the provision of the new services. But the heart of all this, Estonia has always focused on what the end users, exactly the citizens' demands and how the government can make their life easier. One crucial part of this way, the open-minded approach to public-private partnerships. Thankfully, both the public and private sector understood that need to build up our country as an information society and integrate the e-state solutions as they are created. Choose the banking sector pushed hard for secure and online authentication methods, and were the first fully embrace solution like the mobile ID and smart ID, about which we'll talk also a bit later. Of course, user-friendly online services are irrelevant. if people don't have a reliable internet connections. For this reason, the internet has been established as a social right. It is freely accessible in many public spaces across the country, while the mobile internet is also quite cheap and readily available. Estonia has about 95% of 4G coverage. And another fundamental part of the development of trustworthy online service was a decision to legally confer data ownership to the respective individual. This means that the citizen owns his or her personal data, and the government authorities only handle the data and have to ask for the explicit consent of the owner to share the data with other authorities. So it's fair to say that the political leadership at that time was very digital-minded. One of the most important factors that helped streamlining the government structures, authorities, and databases was the once-only principle which exists to this day. This means that any data of the data related to individual can only be collected by one specific institution, thereby eliminating duplicate data and bureaucracy. So while in most countries, many different authorities have the right to ask of your address, in Estonia, only the population register can ask and store your address, and any other authorities that needs your address is forbidden from asking you. Instead, it needs to get that information from the population register. This is also the necessary precondition for the fully functional use of the X road, about which I show a bit later. If you are wondering about the legal foundation for the once-only principle, it stems from the combination of different legal acts and regulations. For instance, the Public Information Act for Estonia lays down the prohibition of the establishing separate databases for the collection of the same data. More concernedly, the general part of Economic Activities Code Act prohibits requiring information twice. Also, the principle of management service and governing information government regulations specifically lays down the prohibition to request the resubmission of data that is already in any database belonging to the state information systems. Estonia has further pushed the implementation of the principles at the EU level, with the Tallinn Declaration on e-government setting the objective to implement once only for key public services, at least as an option for the citizens and businesses. Finally, Estonia has implemented a system called digital by default. This means the government authorities were tasked to offer their offline portfolios of services online in digital format, as well as that steps should be undertaken to make sure that this is the normal way. Still, it's important to note that the people are not forced to do this thing online. It's just most people choose to use the digital route because it usually saves them a lot of time and some money as well. Thanks to the digital by default approach, 99% of the government services are now accessible online. When I mentioned the fact that Estonia is the only country in the world where the 99% of the public services are accessible online, you might wonder what is the 1% that is not. And that's a fair question. As it stands, on the marriage and divorce are not conducted online. For these two things, you need a physical signature and the agreeing parties and the public notary to confirm that you are not making these decisions under duress. It's also worth pointing out that you can still do most of the administrative parts online. The main hurdle is the final signature. Also, the whole parliament can work only the digital way since 2012. But there is also, if you need to do something on paper, this also can be done. One of the cornerstone, it's undoubtedly the electronic ID, which enables Estonian citizens and residents alike to prove their identity online benefits from the convenient, safe, and fast, hassle-free e-services. We got this ID card since 2001. Nearly everyone of Estonians, 1.3 million citizens and residents, has an ID card, which is a mandatory national card with chips that carries embedded files and functions as definitely proof of ID in an electronic environment. This ID card is a compliance with the highest EU standards, particularly AIDAS. But if you find using that card on a daily basis too bothersome, and the truth is that many Estonians do, we are lucky because there are several other e-ID carriers. The first one is called a mobile ID, which also people to use their mobile phone as a form of secure digital ID. Mobile ID is a different kind of SIM card that you can get from the network provider, pop into the phone, and just it is like ID card. It can be used to access the secure e-service and digital sign documents, but has the other advantages of not requiring a card reader. Smart ID, which is an app that you can download and use authentication, just like the other solutions. You can use Smart ID as a smartphone or on a tablet or on an iOS devices just easily as on Android. Using Smart ID, you only need a Wi-Fi network, mobile internet connection, and no data roaming is necessary. Finally, there is a method of electronic identity that literally everybody in the world can have as well. It's called a residency card. And in many ways, it is a culmination of many of Estonia's previous efforts. Anyone around the world, age 18 or older, can get this card. It is they can create the company on Estonian legal soil, meaning inside the Europe single market, and also give the digital signatures that are legally binding, just like an Estonian citizens and residents, and can with their ID cards. But this is a different story and takes more time to show and explain. Also, our Parliament use secure identification for accessing to our info system, for the VPN, for everywhere where it's needed to identify the user. How do we ensure that the efficiency and safety of this massive data exchanges in Estonia? We are using the X-Road since 2001. It's the software-based backbone that encrypts and transfers that data. It works like an open source highway for the data traffic. X-Road interconnects public and private databases which are held in distributed manner. While every institution manages its own processes, government in situation can decide independently which platform they are using to use X-Road. So yes, different authorities can choose different kinds of software and service infrastructure. What matters is that they all are compatible to the X-Road. This decentralized approach means that there is not one big super database, which would be extremely attractive to hackers. All data transfers are endpoint to endpoint encrypted, and we can see that we are on the right track because many other countries have gotten on board with our solution. Some of them are on the screen, are seen on the screen, but I'm sure that there is also a countries in a neighborhood that's at least considering using the X-Road as we speak. Also, Parliament use X-Road, and all our information is exchanged through this network. This X-Road source code is publicly available to everyone. Another cornerstone of the digitalization of Estonia has been i-voting. I-voting is possible in local, national, and the European Parliament elections since 2005. It is an optional way of voting, so you can always vote on paper if you prefer that for one reason or another. Crucially, you can change your vote during the 7-day digital voting period, so no one can force or bribe anyone to vote for a certain candidate. Interestingly, this solution has also been very appealing for the elderly, who might not be mobile enough anymore to cast their votes on the paper. In the last elections, almost half of the voters were cast online, probably because it's location independent, time independent, and a lot easier and faster. As a nice side effect for the government, an e-vote is also a lot cheaper than the average vote on paper, and is arguably more secure too. If you want to know how your vote is counted and what the source code behind of all of this magic is, you can check out. If you need, the source code is available for everyone. Also, the Parliament use digital voting since in a plenary hall, I mean, and all votes since 1994 in digital way are stored and accessible through our website to everyone. First of all, what's GRAT? Well, GRAT is some kind of creature from the Estonian mythology and is used the term of the AI in Estonia. The Estonian government has made AI a priority topic on the national level based on the digital agenda 2020 for Estonia. The general objective was to have at least 50 use cases of artificial intelligence in the public sector in Estonia by 2020. Already known, there are plenty of existing use cases in Estonian public sector. Also, one of the 50's AI implementation on 2020 belongs to Estonian Parliament. As the last year, 2020, HANS, or new verbatim record system, was also launched. The system records the proceedings in the plenary hall as sound files, and the speech recognition writes them down. The new system embodies a complete workflow of the information processing, starting with the sound recording in the plenary hall and ending with the publication in the text format on the homepage of the Riigikogu. Speech recognition use artificial intelligence, and now we are working in order to similar business cases. About the conclusion, none of us knows what exactly the future has in store. We can be sure in only one thing: everything around us is constant change. The change today and definitely also tomorrow are linked to the digital transformation and its integration in all aspects of the organization. It is not exaggeration to call this whole process to change the digital evolution. Sometimes the changes are waiting us somewhere where never we have looked at, like the COVID right now. It's just push us to make changes more. I believe that that's all from me. Thank you.